Yo, what's good, guys? We are back at it again with another MLB The Show video for you guys, and today I'm going to be ranking all of the new content. We got a big new Team Affinity drop. I also threw in some stuff like the new event rewards that dropped today, new collection rewards, the new ranked rewards, stuff like that. So if you do enjoy the content, feel free to leave a like, subscribe. We're going to be doing this for the rest of the game cycle. And yeah, let's get into it, right? So we got Adam Dunn here. He is like a stepping stone ranked reward. He's like before you get to the two main guys. I think he's incredibly meta. Maybe not in the field, but as a DH or at first base. I believe this card has first base secondary. He does. It's hard to argue with this. 103, 107, 117, 125, 105 clutch. If you know, you know. If you've used the captain card, you know he already plays better than his like 87 overall captain card is. This is a 99 with slightly improved hitting stats to keep him up in the meta. And he's competent on defense. You can play him in the outfield if you're brave enough, but his best positions are like a poor man's Babe Ruth at first base, or even like a DH. Is probably going to be where he fits in. S tier, I guess I should kind of frame this into perspective. S tier is pretty meta. They come in, compete with some of the best cards in the game for spots in like God squads. A tier will be like good cards. B tier will be bleh, just mid, which is where most Team Affinity ends up with. And then C, and I probably won't go the DNF, but it's almost like those cards are almost irrelevant. So yeah, let's go ahead and keep on. Andy Cooper just came out, new event reward. Looks mid, throws kind of whatever pitches with a lot of the Negro League guys. They like to give him a bunch of junk pitches. Yeah, that might be what they threw back then, but overall doesn't really fit in the meta of the game. So he's just kind of bleh. He has 5 decent pitches, some okay speed differentials. It really depends on his windup. I guess if he has a really funky delivery, that'll work in his favor. But as of right now, I just can't see him as mid. Bernie Williams looks like a good card. Might not be super meta, might not make everybody's team, but if you need a switch hitter in your lineup with incredibly good contact and decent enough power, then he can do that for you. Just not really going to compete with some of the defensive outfielders we have right now. His defense is kind of bleh, especially in center field. He's not the fastest card in the world, so he's more of like a corner outfielder. But if you need that switch hitting ability, he definitely brings that. Looks like one of the better like Team Affinity cards. Lightning card, we also got a lightning card in Brenton Doyle. Looks very good. Very similar to like the All-Star MVP Jarren Duran. You can see 116, 109, 113, 120, max out clutch, very fast in the field. The only problem, really, it's not a problem, but the only thing worth mentioning fielding wise for him is the reaction. It's lower than Duran, so he's not quite going to be the same quality of fielder as like Duran. But if you run him in left and Duran in center, I don't see how anything's touching the ground in the outfield. So he's a dog. He looks very good. Cal Ripken is Cal Ripken. He's fine. I keep saying in all the tier lists about like Carlos Correa, he's like in that Cal Ripken archetype. You know what you're getting. Good contact, decent enough power, good defensively, I guess, but not super fast. So he might struggle with balls hit directly up the middle or behind that third baseman. He might not get stuff like that, but overall, he's just fine. It's usually how Cal Ripken is in MLB The Show. Kanye West absolutely destroys righties, has a fire bat flip, but doesn't really touch lefties. So that's kind of his downside. Can play catcher, can play left field, so kind of quirky in that regard, I guess. But you can see 85 power left, so he's going to struggle against lefties. Doesn't really have the fielding if you'd want to play him in the outfield or catcher. More of a first baseman, more of a DH. Has some decent quirks. His swing's usually pretty good. Kind of hard to hit lefty-lefty, but what lefty isn't? Ortiz, very similar. Destroys righties, struggles a little bit against lefties, more of a first baseman DH, obviously. 101, 120, 110, 120, max out clutch, obviously, and not the slowest card in the world. So it really depends on if you personally like his swing. I think he's just kind of bleh from year to year. But we can bump him up to A. I think, he kind of deserves that. Duke Snyder always has a swing that I really enjoy, and absolutely pulverizes righties. But he's rather pedestrian against lefties. Not a great fielder, not a terrible fielder. You can see 77 speed, 81 reaction, decent enough fielding, good clutch. Just not great contact against lefties. Like, it's fine, it's passable, and the power's passable. But really, I think his main role for anybody that's really wanting to use him is probably as a bench bat, as like a pinch hitter, or even like a platoon bat with somebody that we'll see later on the list. This Dylan Cease no hitter card art, S tier. Actual card, C might be pushing it, honestly. There's really no use in using him. He's not great. He doesn't have a great pitch mix. And he doesn't throw. He throws hard, but he doesn't have an outlier, so it's not like that hard. It is what it is. He's just kind of mid. If you want to use him, you can make him work. This card shows on has not updated yet. Giancarlo Stanton. He is the collection for getting all of the Team Affinity guys. Easy S tier. It has hitting stats on par with Judge. He's basically, if you didn't do the Judge All-Star Game collection, or maybe you're a Yankees fan and you want to have Giancarlo in right and Judge in left, they're basically the same card. So it's really whose swing do you like more. Historically, I don't love Giancarlo's swing, but it's fine. It's fine. It's inoffensive. I wouldn't say it's great. I wouldn't say it's like a bad swing either. And the stats are going to play. He's very good defensively. This is a Marlins card. You can't tell from the card art. But he had some years on the Marlins where he was competent, above competent in right field. Greg Maddux, more of a higher difficulty pitcher. Some people won't like the C tier ranking here, but really going to shine probably on Hall of Fame against guys that aren't comfortable. I don't think he's going to be good enough to where he's going to be awesome on Legend. It's just kind of meh, you know. We already got Roy Halladay, which is like the Legend pitcher. Maddux just doesn't throw hard enough these days, I don't think. Jazz Chisholm traded card. Interesting that they decided to make a couple of traded cards. This Jazz is fine. I include him because he's a cool name. And some people just want to use a Jazz card, but you can see contact numbers, you know, mid to below average. Power against lefties is really bad. The power against righties is mid. The clutch is decent. The fielding's all right. The speed's all right. He's just kind of meh. He plays a lot of positions, so that's cool. You shouldn't have a trouble fitting him in your lineup if you do want to, but I just don't know why you would, unless you just really enjoy him as a player. Yohan Santana, probably S tier. This is what Maddux wishes he was. This is going to be a card that's a problem on Legend. And it'll probably be tough on Hall of Fame, and you can probably get away with some decent outings with him on All-Star. I think his fastball is going to top out like 95, 96, 97, which should be good enough to get some decent outings on All-Star. Should be a dog, though, especially on higher difficulties. John Crook, cool card, cool name to get a decent card. I think he's fine. I'm going to need a slight refresher. I think he's a contact hitting first baseman, but he can play outfield. Has really good quirks, to be honest. 121, 125, 87, 86, 120 clutch. Good fielding, but gonna be slow if you do play him in the outfield. So, in my opinion, doesn't really give you what you want from a first baseman, which is a guy that mashes everything. And then as an outfielder, I think he's kind of behind the curve at this point. But if you want to use him, if you're a Phillies fan, or if you just like him for his personality, then, you know, he's there. Johnny Bench, a card that's just always bad in the show and probably never will be, because Johnny Bench's best thing in his career was historically like his power and his defense. Catcher defense doesn't really matter. And he doesn't really have the raw power to get like the Gary Sanchez treatment where he just gets like 125 power against both sides. So I think he's just always going to be doomed to mediocrity in the show, which sucks for potentially the best catcher of all time. But, you know, is what it is. Johnny Damon, really no reason to use this card, I don't think. He's a contact hitting outfielder with really poor power, and he's not really that good in the field either. He's, you know, 87 speed, not great reaction, and then 85 power against one side, 87 against the other, and you're gonna have to hit lefty on top of that. I'm good. Not a card I'm really prioritizing. Josh Bell, worth mentioning. A lot of people loved his Team Affinity card before. This card's usable. There's better options out there with, like, we got a new Tony Clark, spoiler. And then I think Santander will probably be better than him for most people. But if you really, really enjoy that Josh Bell swing, he's here with mediocre hitting stats. And obviously he's slow and can't field. So I think probably C, but if you need that switch hitting ability, he's there. New Josh Gibson, looks like the best catcher in the game right now. I don't really know his swing. I didn't really use the Negro League card, or there was one other card he got, I think. He got the Supercharged card, I remember that. But I didn't really use him that much. But 110 left, 106 right, 125 against both sides, max out clutch, very good fielding, and he's pretty fast, especially for a catcher. He looks like a monster, honestly. Hopefully he doesn't have the thing where if he fouls off a ball, it sounds like a gunshot went off. It probably still has that, but you know, statistically he's like the best catcher in the game, so can't really argue with that. He is a ranked reward, by the way, if you were wondering. Larry Doby, probably just C, just mediocre. He doesn't have a fake second base secondary anymore. Last year he had second base and made an error like every time the ball was hit to him. 104, 114, 118, 112 with 105 clutch. So they've been giving a lot of these cards max out clutch. Kind of weird he didn't get it. Decent fielding, kind of slow. So just as an outfielder, I think you can get guys that do everything better. But I think he's here. I think he's like Duke Snyder, basically. Or if you want to use him, you can make him work. Matt Holliday, S tier. It feels like he's already gotten 5 cards this year, but this is probably the best one he's gotten. Still has all the good hitting quirks, still has the Matt Holliday swing, 118 left, 125 right, 104 power right, 102 power left. Basically max out clutch, good fielding, and decent enough speed to where if you want to play him in the outfield, if you don't want to play him at first base, he's got the speed and reaction to not be awful out there. So I think he's an easy S tier inclusion. This other card that has glitch card art is Max Scherzer. I think he's in the collection. He could be the Nats reward, but I think he's in the collection. Probably just top of B. I want to put him higher. I really do. But Max is just never really that great in the show. Doesn't have outlier. Doesn't throw really hard. He tops out like 97, maybe 98 if you're lucky. The arm slot kind of betrays him a little bit. It makes his like, usually he has a sweeping curve. I'm not sure what this one has. This Scherzer has a 4-seam slider, circle change, slurve, and a cutter. So yeah, a slurve. Never a huge fan of pitchers that have a slider and a slurve. It's kind of redundant. And with his arm slot, it looks very flat coming out. It doesn't really look like it breaks that much. So it kind of leans towards his other stuff getting lit up. It's a pitcher I enjoy because he doesn't really have the most meta pitch mix, and I think he's fun to pitch with. But that doesn't mean he's the best card. Michael King, kind of similar, honestly. Doesn't have outlier or anything, but has good enough through nines. Sinker, 4-seam, circle change, slurve, slider. So eerily similar pitch mix to like Scherzer. Just fine, honestly. If you want to make them work, you can make them work. Michael Young, not my favorite card in the world. Can't lie to you. But he's solid. He's not bad. He's very Ripken-esque. 120 max out contact, 97 power left, 107 power right, max out clutch, decent enough fielding, kind of slow. So him and Ripken, basically same card. I think I usually would prefer Michael Young's swing over Ripken's, but you can't really argue one over the other. Mike Lowell, now you'll have to forgive me. This Marlins logo, I was not watching baseball when that was their logo. Looks fine statistically. I don't think he's actually A tier. But 116, 104, 125 left, 105 right, 114 clutch, decent enough fielding, somewhat decent speed, has some okay quirks. I think you can make him work. I don't think he's like one of the better cards from this drop without knowing his swing. But he's solid. Minnie Minoso has a really good swing, just, you know, a contact hitting outfielder. Not really what you want, especially when we're kind of getting those 5-tool athletes at this point to put in the outfield, like Griffey, like Trout, people like that. You don't really want a guy that has 80 power left, 94 power right. But Mini's here for you if you do. 87 speed, 84 reaction. He's cool. It's whatever. If you want to run the card, you can. I think I'm going to drop him in C tier because I thought his power was at least a little better. Orlando Cepeda, always a guy that gets cards, usually somebody that nobody uses, has decent positional versatility, has some okay quirks. 125 left, 119 right, 107 power left, 85 power right, 125 clutch, kind of slow to where you're not going to play him in the outfield. Another like contact hitting first baseman, kind of similar to John Kruk. So I would probably stay away from using him. Not my favorite card in the world. Ralph Kiner always has an absolutely hideous swing. I'm sure it's statistically he's kind of fine. Cannot play first base. I don't know if I'm just making that up. If he's always been a primary outfielder or what. Has crazy quirks. And the hitting stats are here. But he is god awful in the field. He is atrocious in the field. And his swing is atrocious. So just, if you want to use him, probably a DH. Not somebody I would advise going for. Randy Arozarena, traded card. Be interesting to see what he brings to the Mariners. I think this card's probably C tier. Not the biggest fan of Randy's swing historically. 125 left, 94 right, 125 left, 85 right, 103 clutch, poor fielding, and not fast. So not only can he not touch righties, he's also a poor fielder. C tier. Rap Dixon. This card's interesting. I'm not too sure what his swing looks like. I believe he's a headliner. Can play every position other than catcher. He might can pitch, to be honest. I'm kind of forgetting his storyline. 114 left, 117 right, 100 power left, 85 power right, 116 clutch. Very fast, very good reactions. So as an outfielder, he's just fine. He's kind of jack of all trades, master of none. Can play a ton of positions, brings a lot of good stuff to your team. Nothing excellent. Kind of just the definition of B tier, where if you want to make him work, you can make him work. Raul Ibanez gets a Mariners card. Not sure if he's really gotten any great cards this year. I think he had like an 87 last season when most people were kind of past 87s or something like that. Has some very good quirks here, dead red and breaking ball. 98 contact left. That's brutal. 125 right, 94 power left, 121 right. Max out clutch, so you do enjoy seeing that. Decent fielder, kind of slow. Don't want to play him at left. Probably want to play him at DH or first. And even then, the fact that he can't touch lefties is not a great thing. So unless you're like a Yankees fan or a Mariners fan, probably wouldn't run that card. Rich Arulia looks really good. If you want that Cal Ripken type of shortstop, this is your guy. 125, 120, 117, 101, 117 clutch. Diamond fielder off rip. Very decent reaction, very decent speed. This is a card where if you put some parallels on him, he's almost the perfect shortstop. Max contact, very good power, very good clutch, very good fielding, and he's not slow. So if you like that Ripken, Carlos Correa type of shortstop, if you use the like stepping stone collection reward Rich Arulia last season and you really enjoyed that card, this card's like an in-game shortstop for you. This can be your shortstop till the end of the season. You can wild card him next season. He's that good. River Ryan, interesting name, but actually looks really solid. Doesn't have like outlier or anything, but 112 hits, decent enough walks. You may struggle in higher difficulties with like an 80 walks, but four seam, slider, curveball, circle change, sinker, pretty decent pitch mix other than the curveball. I think he's just as good as Michael King or like that Scherzer card. I think he's on par with them, and I believe he's free in the Tops Now program. I believe. Market check. So no, he is, I believe, in the season awards pack is like one of the low rounds. So he's relatively easy to get. I think I'd prefer him over probably King and Scherzer. A might be gassing it. I think the value of this card is A. but I think he's more in line probably with Scherzer and King. Raleigh Fingers, S. If you remember the 95 Retro Finest that we got last season, and he just diced everybody up for the entire season, you're going to have Vietnam flashbacks, because this is just the same card but better. He won't have that like power disparity that the other had. You know, the other one, you might be pitching your 95 Fingers and they have like an 89 Gary Sanchez at the plate. There won't be that disparity, but this is still a really good card. 119 hits, 100 walks. Wish the walks was a little higher. 119 clutch, has that same pitch mix with the good speed differential on the forkball. And then if you just want to spam away sliders on Legend and Hall of Fame to your opponent, then you can do that. And obviously he can run the fastball up to like 97, 98. So, you know, it's Raleigh. He's still very good. Roy Oswalt, however you say it. I almost want to put him in C tier, but I do need a refresher on his stats. So probably lower than average hits, very high control, not awesome clutch, 4-seam sinker, 12-6 slider, changeup. Not my favorite pitch mix in the world. I think he's fine. He's probably more in line with like King and Scherzer, but I think I prefer both of them over him, but I don't think he's a whole tier under them. Ryan Braun, I mentioned this with Duke Snider earlier. If you want to platoon him and Duke Snider, this is basically the right-handed Duke Snider. Doesn't hit righties particularly well, but absolutely mashes lefties. Has basically the same fielding and speed as Duke. So, you know, if you want to just platoon those two, definitely something you can do. Rhino, card that, again, if you want to talk about Johnny Bench, historically gets pretty disrespected in the show. All-time home run leader at second base. 115 contact left, 106 contact right, 118 power left, 100 power right, 118 clutch. Very good fielding, very decent speed. At second base, short of like playing a Lindor there or getting a new Marte or somebody like that, a switch hitter basically, this is almost as good as you're going to get. So I like him a lot there. I don't think he's S tier. I don't think he's going to be a lot of people's pick for the second baseman, but he's very good. And if you want to use him, or if you've, you know, just recently gotten back into the game, he would be a great pickup. Steve Finley, always love his swing, but statistically, looks very mid. Let's see. 104 left, 113 right, 106 left, 104 right. I would say that's basically mid in every single hitting category other than contact right. 111 clutch, also kind of mid, especially when you look at all these other cards they drop and they all have max clutch. And then the fielding's mid, 84 reaction, 80 speed as a primary center fielder, so you're going to have to play him as secondary where he's going to take a positional penalty. I can't argue that his swing is fire. It's butter. It always is. But this is not like the collection reward Steve Finley that we got years ago. He hasn't, in my opinion, gotten a card close to that since that. Tom Seaver, this card's cool. I think he just kind of blends in with all these other pitchers where he's fine. Seaver's kind of all about the control being high and the release and working that fastball with that really slow changeup. 4-seam, slider, sinker, 12-6, changeup. So decent pitch mix, nothing awesome. Really, he's kind of similar to a lot of the other pitchers we've gotten this season, where he has that slow changeup, kind of like Bob Gibson and pitchers of like that archetype, Jim Palmer, people like that. So if you enjoyed pitchers like that, then Tom Seaver's there for you. He can be decent, not great. Tony Clark, probably just B. If you really want that switch hitting ability at first base, he should, you know, be good enough. A lot of people really enjoyed the Battle Royale one from the very first season. This is just a better version of that. Has dead red, has bad ball, has first pitch. 125 left, 109 right, 106 left, 104 right. Below average clutch. The clutch is kind of the big problem with this card. If you're facing a pitcher and you got somebody on second base and that pitcher has 125 clutch and you're on Hall of Fame or higher, might not be the most fun at bat. But decent fielding, kind of tall, 6'7", never mind, very tall. But really, if you use him, it's for that switch hitting ability. I think he's on par with like that All-Star Game Santander. Most people will probably enjoy that Santander more if that Santander was a first baseman and not an outfielder primarily. He'd probably also be a 99, and he'd probably be a higher 99 than this Tony Clark is. But since he's first base, hitting's weighted so high. Tony Oliva, I believe I used him in co-op earlier in the year. I think he had a gold in co-op. His swing is very nice. 108 left, 125 right, 82 power left. That is putrid. That's not fun. That's a big problem with this card. 107 power right, max out clutch, decent fielding, not very fast. I believe, yeah, he is an outfielder. So probably below average defensively, not the greatest contact in the world, and just really bad power against one side. C tier. You know, if you really want to use them, you can use them, but probably not going to be your first choice. Corey Hunter, Tigers legend, gets an Angels card here. I think he's kind of a guy that's gone under the radar the past few years. Always gets very good underrated cards that not everybody uses. He had that headliner last year that was very good for a little while. 125 left, 108 right, 113 left, 99 right, 114 clutch. Very good fielding and reaction, but he's slow. So you're probably going to want to play him in a corner spot instead of center field. But he's decent, and I think his swing is fine historically. I think he's just under that A tier. If he just had a little more speed, or if he was a little better hitter against one side, he'd probably be in that A tier. Trevor Hoffman, probably A tier. But that comes with an asterisk. If you've never used Trevor Hoffman, maybe not an A tier. If you are somebody who historically enjoys Hoffman cards, this is another Hoffman card. He's very similar to every other card he's ever gotten in the show. He works that slow curveball, that slow changeup, and then can run a faster fastball by you. And he has really good control and usually very good clutch, and you kind of know what you're getting with Hoffman. So A with an asterisk, right? If you like Hoffman historically, he might be S. If you hate him historically, he might be F. But he should be able to give you some decent outings. Tyler Fitzgerald, the new, I believe, yeah, so you get this card through grinding out like the Tops Now program that came out this week. 109 left, 110 right, 101 left, 125 right with 120 clutch. Very good fielding and very fast. This looks like a very solid card. The only way I think he gets better is if he's a switch hitter. Primary shortstop, so if you're aching at shortstop, he can fill in there. He can also fill in everywhere else other than catcher. So a very good card. I'm hesitant to put him in the S tier just because I don't think he'll be anybody's first choice at any of his positions. But if you just need somebody to fill in the gap, if you have a weak spot in your team, definitely there, definitely an option. And then Xavier Edwards, a very underwhelming 99 until you see that he's a switch hitter. So him being a switch hitter is very nice. Plays short, second, center field. Max out contact, 77 power left, 98 power left, right. So he's basically below average power against righties, and then he's way below par against lefties. 125 clutch, decent enough fielding, relatively fast, makes a lot of good captain teams, so that's cool. Probably like B, honestly. If you want to make him work, especially at second base, a position where usually you don't get a lot of power, then he's very good. He's obviously a switch hitter. A lot of people kind of crush switch hitters. So if that describes you, he should be a good card. And then I believe I am forgetting somebody. I think Tim Raines got a card. He did. Okay. So this Tim Raines card kind of reminded me of Xavier Edwards because that spot's probably going to be second base for him. Has some good quirks. 112 contact left, 125 contact right, 92 power left, 73 power right. So again, very similar to Xavier, where against one side he's slightly below average, against the other he is terrible. 111 clutch, very good fielding, very fast card. So could play him in the outfield. I think second base probably better because second base is more prone to kind of having guys that don't have a lot of power. So I don't think it's as much of a drop off as if you were to run him in like the outfield. So I think he's basically the same as Xavier Edwards, basically. I think these cards are very similar. And overall, that's kind of how I rank this Team Affinity drop. Most of these cards are either, you know, you can make them work, or they're relatively bad. And then there's a couple outliers that are very good. This Bernie Williams, I think David Ortiz, if he's somebody you really enjoy his swing, the max out clutch helps a lot at first base. Ryan Sandberg, a very good card, underrated. Every single time he's ever gotten a card, I feel like he's underrated. And Trevor Hoffman, I feel like can go into a lot of people's team. Maybe not everybody. There'll be people out there that hate Trevor Hoffman, but he can go into some people's team. And then I think the can't miss guys are like Matt Holliday, Rich Arulia, and Raleigh Fingers from Team Affinity. All these other cards you can get through grinding the game and other means. I believe this is Giancarlo. Very worthwhile to go out and run all the Team Affinity. It is a lot. Hopefully they made it easier again. I'm not too sure. I haven't looked over it yet. But yeah, guys, that is the list. If you want to review it, the full tier list will be down in the description. Till next time, peace.